You may know that you need a literary agent to sell your book to most publishers, at least the big ones. If you've checked out some of my other episodes, you may even know the steps to get one. But how do you know when you're ready to get a literary agent? Today, I'm going to share with you the 4 must-dos before you are ready for a literary agent. Let's go. Quick story. About 12 years ago, I wrote my first draft of my first novel. I had no idea what I was doing. I had actually never even written a short story that I thought was any good before, but I wound up writing a draft of a novel. And by draft, I mean that I had Googled how many words are in a novel, seen on the internet that it was about 70,000, and just written until I hit that number. Now, a couple of months earlier, I had had a fortuitous interaction with a well-known literary agent who had listened to my pitch for my novel, encouraged me to write it, and then invited me to send it to him when I was done. As soon as I finished writing the last word of this first draft, I stood up from my bed where I had been writing, I did a little dance, and suddenly I wondered, should I send it to him right now? I am so happy to tell you that the impulsivity of this thought passed quickly and I did not do it. Thank God, because that draft, like any first draft, was not ready to be sent to a literary agent. Please, 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 never send a first draft of anything to anything or anyone, not to an agent, not to a contest, not to a literary magazine. It's not because your first draft is crap. I don't actually subscribe to the idea that all first drafts are crap. But I do know that while first drafts contain glimmering gems and the essentials of a new story in the world, they also need to be cleaned up. Invariably, every first draft could use a good cleaning, even a really strong first draft. And here's the other important thing to know. You really only get one shot at any particular literary agent. You don't get to pitch them later and say, oh wait, I changed it, I made it better. Do you like it now? That isn't really done. I mean, unless they invite you to do that, and you can imagine why. Their thought's gonna be, okay, well, why did you waste my time before by sending me something that wasn't ready? I've spoken to a ton of literary agents and heard them on panels, and they always say this. They beg even writers not to query their books until their manuscripts are truly as strong as they can be. So with all of that said, how do you know when it's strong as it can be and you're ready to query a literary agent? First, have you revised? If you were to build a house, you would not try to paint the walls and choose the window trimmings as you were building the foundation. It would literally end up just being a pile of materials. The same is true when we try as writers to both get a story down on paper for the first time and worry about how it's coming across, how it's being presented. That's like trying to paint the walls while you build the foundation. These are completely separate tasks. They're as different as hammering a nail and painting a wall. You cannot get a story down, and by that I mean just creating something out of nothing and getting it on paper. You can't do that and worry about whether it's polished or in its most presentable form yet. I think sometimes when people tell me that they get bogged down in the first draft by perfectionism, this is what's actually going on. Perfectionism sounds like it's high standards, but I have high standards. I just know that when I'm building a house, that's the first phase, and I'm going to be able to apply my high standards later when I'm worrying about what the house looks like on the inside. You're going to have to revise. Everybody has to revise. Your first draft is just the foundation of the house. It's not ready for someone to move in yet, or in this case, to be sent to an agent. So have you revised? The second thing to ask is, have you gotten feedback after revision and then revised again based on that feedback? Now, here's the sequence I teach writers to follow in my program. I have created this based off of years of trying it different ways myself and finding pitfalls and alternate approaches. First, you get down your messy first draft. Then you revise without getting feedback on it yet. You're going to go in yourself and find things that you want to change. You don't need feedback yet. There's still going to be plenty of stuff you can spot on your own that you want to fix. So let's get that done first. Then once you've done that pass, you're ready for feedback. Feedback too early, I think, can be derailing. It's dangerous because you risk replacing your own vision with other people's opinions. Raise your hand if you've ever done that before. Yeah, I I did that for years. But at some point, feedback does become essential. And I believe that point to be after you have revised one time, at least one time. We just can't see our work objectively, as much as we may try. For example, I recently wrote something that I felt like as I was writing, it was brilliant. And when I submitted it to my writing group, their collective response was, this is actually kind of a confusing timeline. We can't really tell what's happening when. Just really good to know. I mean, I was so close to it that to me, it was very obvious what order the events came in. But to them, it just kind of felt all over the place. You don't need to get feedback from loads of people, two or three, I think will suffice, but get feedback from a small handful of people you trust before you send out your manuscript to literary agents. The third question I want you to look into is your manuscript the proper word count for the genre you're writing? The minimum word count for most adult and young adult books is going to be about 70,000 words. And the minimum word count for middle grade books is going to be about 40,000 words. Now, if you're writing in a particular genre, these numbers could shift a bit. You could potentially encounter some maximums as well. A light-hearted romance shouldn't be coming in at 200,000 words. That's going to be too long. So you want to check your genre's word count and make sure you're in the right ballpark, or you're going to have trouble getting an agent even to look at your work. Word count matters a lot to selling your book, no matter how good your story is. Unfortunately, that's just the truth. Okay, before I share the last two questions with you, I want you to check out the links below for how to work directly with me on your book. I love working with authors to write their dream books, and I would love to hear from you. Okay, now back to the video. The fourth question I want you to ask is, do you like it? When you sit down and you read it, like a reader, not like a writer, but like a reader, do you like it? Do you think it's fun and entertaining, or are you bored? Where are you bored? All of this matters. Now, I realize that at some point we get so close to our work that we can't really see straight anymore. It's hard to know if it's fun to read when you've essentially memorized it because you've been over it so many times. But this is why we do need to set it aside sometimes and let time pass and then come back to it so we can get some distance and then see if once we've had some time away from our draft, we actually like it when we return to it. Finally, last question. How confident are you in your grammar? This is important, if boring, I know. I find that often people in my program, or I help writers write publishable books, I find that they know when grammar is a weakness, but sometimes they just kind of hope that an agent won't notice and will give them a shot, and that someone will help them clean up their grammar later after they have an agent or a book deal. Unfortunately, that's not how it works. Grammar will make or break you. And I'm not saying the occasional typo is going to break you, but if every other sentence is not grammatically correct, it doesn't really matter how great your story is. You're not going to get a literary agent with that version of your manuscript. So you just need to figure out a way to get a good copy edit, is what it's called. A copy edit cleans up all of the grammar and syntax in your story. All right, now if all of this sounds overwhelming, it doesn't have to be. My program, the Book Incubator, is designed to walk you through each of these steps, holding your hand, showing you exactly how to do it so that you do it correctly and so that you have a good time while you're doing it. We're all about the joyful approach to reaching your creative writing goal. So if you made it this far in the video, I'm guessing that you're writing a book or wanting to write a book. And if so, I would love to hear from you. Because when I'm not writing, my mission is to help writers write their dream books. I love it. I live for it. If you're curious to know more, I have a free video walking you through my exact process for writing a book. And you can get it by clicking below and answering 2 questions to apply to the program. You can get the video whether you join or not, no pressure to enroll. So just click below to tell me a little bit about you and your book or your book idea. I'm so excited to hear from you.